This is the 8-9 Combo.
This is the 8-9 Combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones. Hello, mate. How are you?
Welcome to the Rugby Writers Colloquium. We have convened Charlie Morgan, an eminent writer for the Sunday Telegraph of London. You yourself, sir, even though sometimes you do your best work gorging on chocolate and drinking tea in dark rooms in Melbourne, write for the distinguished and eminent RugbyPass. And I just write nonsense for the Roar. Just a taste of these three great writers being gathered here tonight. Here's just a little taste from you, sir. Actually, you could guess who wrote each thing. The average Wallabies fan wants nothing more than a return to the glory years of the late 90s, early 2000s, and has had to go through more heartache and heartbreak in the last decade alone than any fan should have to. Somehow, as if it even needed to be possible, Saturday's second test result against the Lions seemed to have trumped all the terrible, terrible feelings you've endured in that time. And then from somebody in this colloquium, test matches need to be won several times. That is so true.
Yeah.
And then someone else may have written this. Aussie rugby at its best looks like a ricochet animated by pinball wizards and no stopping it. Rugby pent up, a code forever under attack, but full of the DNA of heydays gone by, of being the best and remembering it.
You know what I'm most pleased about in
What?
in that
The
they
chocolate?
left the second terrible in.
You needed the two. You got to have the terrible, comma, terrible.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yes. No, I was very pleased.
It's
about
a very good piece, mate. I think it's your best, and I think it's for those who want to jump on and actually read the whole thing and not have a parody of it. He goes through an idea which I think is very important. The picture wasn't clear enough.
Yeah,
and I think it's important sometimes in life not to demand perfection from yourself, from others, from technology, from outcomes. There are just times still in rugby for sure where you go, ooh, murky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt. That's why we love the game like we do. Yes, you can certainly find my latest RugbyPass piece on RugbyPass. Head to my socials as well. It's all over that as well. Cheers, mate. What are we giving cheers to around the rugby world this weekend?
Cheers for Charlie. This is Tea Time with Charlie, Writers Colloquium, all kinds of names. Charlie Morgan wrote this, which I loved a lot. He said, Skelton's villainy. He was a grinning menace, reveling in the do-or-die tussle. He bumped Ty Furlong to spark a bout of handbags in which he manhandled former Saracens colleague Myro Itoje and was precisely the figure for Australia to rally around. Cheers to that.
It's absolutely
I got goosebumps. I want to fight somebody.
It's absolutely spot on, isn't it? I have to give you a little mini cheers. Again, second cheers in a row.
What we said
no.
Okay,
I know we did. But you'll allow this one. My little mini G's is to my own rugby heartbreak, because even my family chipped me for how downcast I was at the start of the postmortem.
Daddy, why are you so sad?
My daughter said to me exactly that. I looked so sad.
Daddy, is it the end of the world?
Yeah.
No, darling, there's been worse days than this.
Yeah, it felt like it. Charlie Morgan is indeed back on the 8-9 Combo for his great monthly rugby chat very soon. But first, mate, please, can you tell the nice people why subscribing to the 8-9 Combo, like more than 8,100 of you have done, is better than artificial intelligence again?
Because you get to hear the author read their rugby writings live. After the confluence of Lyonnais trauma with no meetings in Japan, mate, and the bad vibes of the Dave Rennie goodbye, a game which got out of control in Argentina, the ugly way Super Rugby departed Victoria, their internecine budget fights, and yet another bloody Crusaders trophy. How good to see Wallabies rip the best of the home nations for half an hour. Better even than that one win at Twickenham. This was a side who was said to be too good to tour Australia.
I love now that you've just
Subscribe.
slid in reading from your own article.
Subscribe, please, everyone.
Subscribe, please.
You won't get that
And if you
anywhere
are-
else. I mean, where else are you going to get
No,
me
it's
reading
true.
me? No.
No, it's very true. It's very true. If you are watching us on YouTube already, make sure you hit the red subscribe button down there in the bottom corner, like about half of you haven't quite done yet.
By the way, mate, why was there such a huge reaction to our sad post-mortem? People like catharsis, I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's very true, I think. And it was massive. It was our biggest YouTube clip in several months and one of our biggest ever. And
people said you looked really, really sad and they wanted to give you a hug.
Yeah, that's probably fair. That was my own family said that.
I told him give him a rum. That's all he wants. He doesn't want a hug.
Yes. And the pod version of it this week and last week, the first test postmortem as well. They're both into our like top 5 episodes ever.
People like to cry together.
Catharsis, yes.
Commiserate.
And so, if you are listening on Spotify, Apple Pods, or any of the pod platforms, then hit follow, hit like, hit subscribe, whatever it happens to be, and make sure that you don't miss any of the sadness. UK and Irish rugby press pack isn't as big as I remember it in 2013, quite possibly because games are at the very civilised time of 11 a.m. Saturday morning in the UK, and the idea that of a sleep in and a late breakfast rugby brunch, I have to admit, is pretty bloody appealing. So to tell us how covering rugby in daylight hours is from the Telegraph, please welcome back Charlie Morgan. Hello, mate. How you doing?
Hello, lads. That was one of the most enjoyable green room stays I've had. The chat coming echoing down the corridor was brilliant, but 2 reasons mainly. One was that an old editor of mine used to read out some of the stuff he was editing in real time, and it used to make me cringe my face inside out when it was mine. And then the other thing, your family, Brett, your family's reaction at your disappointment very much reminds me of the atmosphere in our house when Wales used to lose. My father was just sad, melancholy, not angry, just sad. That used to be the way it worked. So yeah, I love that. Thank you very much for having me again.
I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. Yeah, well, look, it has been an intriguing series. We always knew it would be an intriguing series. We didn't quite know why, but it has been, and that is the beauty of series of Test rugby, isn't it? We've all said that at different points in time.
Oh, I love the psychological ebb and flow of it all, and how you cannot look away even for the Lions would have wanted to declare after 20 minutes, wouldn't they, of the first test. And yet there was so much more left in that game and so many ways that Australia could get a foothold in that would potentially be significant for the next 2 weekends. And we're going to get into it, I'm sure, but the horrible wormy journalist side of me was feeling really smug for a lot of that second test, because I just thought with crucially with those 3 guys back, Valentini, Skelton and Gleeson on the bench, they were just going to look so different. And there was that, and there was the fact that for the Lions to sustain it at the end of a long Northern Hemisphere season when a lot of their key protagonists are running on empty, that was always going to level it to a point where the Lions were going to have to pull something special out of the bag to get over the line. I thought I just couldn't see another straightforward win for the Lions, and so it proved.
Yeah, and
it's interesting because I think that's one of the points you make in this piece that I'm referring to, and everyone go to it. It's 12 ways or factors that made the occasion so compelling. You put it up there in the pantheon of Lions occasions, and one of them is you make this point where yes, the Wallabies rediscovered their venom. Skelton, Valentini, you say, who carried with venom and heft, epitomized renewed vigor, but accuracy, ambition, and skill to go with the grunt. And you were basically making the point, that sort of base, that foundation, yes, but then beyond that, there was beautiful lines by the Wallabies back line, Ikitau running flat, a pullback to Swali'i, to Lina, to Hot Potter, to feed Max. They hadn't even got to the third pass in the first game. Finally, there's 6 goes.
And it looked super, super primitive, the Australia's attack in the first game. And that was coloured by loads of things, coloured by them probably being undercooked, coloured by the Lions' physical intensity being off the scale and making them look almost cowed. But I'm glad glad you brought that bit up, because that period where they were dominant wasn't just because of the physicality of those guys that came in. That obviously made a big impression and improved them a lot. But they moved the ball to space really heavily, and I loved that move that ended up with, I think it's Jorgensen chipping over. It's a perfect chip. Hugh Jones carries it over from that field position, they score. Then Tom Wright hits 50-22, they score again. Then and then which is what a feature, I guess, of maybe checker sides, I think it was, where they used to be really threatening off restarts and run the ball, sort of go coast to coast off restarts. There was a bit of that in there as well. And you thought, geez, this is a rounded Australia side. This isn't just the Schmidt ruck and run violence and breakdown stuff. This is a rounded team, and the Lions are going to have to be really good to kind of get back in this game, let alone sort of overhaul Australia.
Yeah, Brett, you guys are both cricketers, but I'm going to go to tennis. Maybe there's an analogy in cricket, but when Steffi Graf was at her prime, when she got on top of you, she would serve quicker and quicker. And so you always felt like you were just playing uphill. You almost wanted to have a timeout, and there's not a timeout in tennis. I felt like there was that moment where it gets to 26-17, and you think like, there's just one more. And, that kind of feeling of urgency. So I don't know about you, but I know you're sad now, but there must have been a time during that match where you were feeling pretty bloody good.
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. At that moment, 26-17, when there was one more, yes, there always felt like there was one more, but it still wasn't clear who it was. It could have been either of them at that. It could have been either team at that point, and that was what was so. There was like the Tom Wright's try that comes off Suoli's little break, little left foot step. I'd completely forgotten that was from a restart. Jorgensen makes a little snipe down the right edge and made about 30 meters from where he fielded the ball, and they played off that. It was the next phase off that. When you're chucking down notes and doing all sorts of things, I was probably still catching up from the previous play, and suddenly they're away. And there's a Suoli. I mentioned the post-mortem, Harry, that what they were doing for Suoli was playing him well before the line, so they're letting him do his thing before he got anywhere near contact. Whereas in Brisbane, they were sort of making him catch the ball into contact and do something, for God's sake.
Correct.
This time they gave him time, they gave him space to see what he could do and use his athleticism. And in that little break, before he loads up with the left foot, he slightly jinks to the left to put him outside. I suppose it was Russell, or maybe it was whoever is defending in the 12 channel. That just put him outside. Then he unloads off the left and straightens beautifully, and then Tom Wright backs up like Tom Wright does. And it was just a really, really well-worked try, which, yes, I had to then remind myself on Sunday night, that was from a restart. So, yeah.
But what you cautioned in your piece in RugbyPass, everyone go to it, you say no lead was going to be safe. That sounds crazy, but in a way, that's what it turned out to be. Even an 18-point lead is not safe. And you write this, the Wallabies, having come back from 24 down in Brisbane just a week ago themselves, would have known their own superbly crafted 23-5 lead in Melbourne was going to be challenged. The Lions were always coming back. And this is when I also thought about, maybe they played helter-skelter for 4 or 5 games that looked crazy for this moment, to learn how to score all the time. So the defense in the 5 minutes before halftime, whilst leading by 18, had to be rock solid.
Yeah. And the thing I remember about that was that we, up in the press box in Melbourne, after they'd scored the third try in whatever it was, 8 or 9 minutes, all while Tommy Freeman was off, a little stat graphic came up in the bottom corner, and I presume it would have been the Stan Sport feed we were getting. We didn't have any sound, but it just said possession the last 10 minutes, and the Wallabies had 90% of it. And so I had that thought in that moment that this lead is not going to be safe, because the Lions, Charlie, were just going to get the ball back at some point, weren't they? You can't maintain 90% possession.
At the risk of saying something that editor would read out loud for me to shame me in front of the whole office, it was like they were sort of magnetically brought back together, wasn't it? They there was such a sort of ebb and flows of it, and that last 10 minutes, it was like the inverse, honestly, of watching sides play. And the Lions aren't this good, but great All Black sides where sure you can get away, and maybe you'll have quarter where you're battering us, and you might even get 15, 16 ahead. But we're gonna keep our nerve. We're gonna hold our nerve. We're even gonna find another way because we're gonna play a little bit differently. And it's fascinating there. You're bang on, and just what it was a great test match because it always felt like it was going to come down to the wire, and that made you sense the turning points in real time. So just two off the top of my head, and it's probably easy to conjure them because they lead to Lions tries, as everything seemed to do after that Wallabies purple patch. But Tom Liner dropping, I can't remember whether it's a box kick or just a high ball from 10, but under not enough pressure for him to drop that leads to the scrum that eventually leads to Tom Curry's try. And then there's a really soft, it wasn't the most controversial breakdown penalty of the game or non-call of the game, but it's Tom Curry and Tyke Byrne, those two tykes, hold up Harry Wilson, and Suoli comes in the side. Sort of looks like a tackle situation as opposed to a breakdown, but then Russell sort of steals 5 meters and whacks it absolutely miles again. And then that's the sort of those that they just bossed the middle of the field a bit better with 10 minutes to half time, and they capitalized on that.
I agree with you guys too, by the way, that I never felt like it was over. No. I always felt like there was more coming because neither side had showed real stability and violence and ferocity on defense for a while. An 8-try game, as it turned out in the end. Wallabies fans will say 7, but that often comes that even when it's an 8-try game, it's the defensive moments that actually turn the tide again. Yeah. And here you're writing, Charlie, about that Curry tackle, a track back tackle. And you say, Jorgensen batted Gordon's box kick infield. Gleeson and McBride poured forward to work Suoli into space. With Tate McDermott unmarked on the left flank, the Wallabies looked poised to go up at least 31-17. Surely then it would have been game over. Curry charged to the rescue, though, and clattered Suoli to force a knock-on. Even at the time, it seemed a pivotal intervention, founded on pure grit, and so it would prove. And I asked you on our WhatsApp, do you think he was tracking back to get him, or was he just running like a guy with hair on fire, and then, boom, there's Joey?
Yeah, I got that wrong, didn't I? I thought you were talking about the right try, and I was sort of talking about how Curry shot out the line, and that was a bit like the Argentina game. But no, the good intervention. Well, I don't know. I think
I cannot find any vision of it. I cannot see where he came from, but I know it was a long way away.
It was a classic moment of Suoli just never seeing him, never seeing him until he got hit. But I'm quite sure Curry was there. Thought I can absolutely lay this.
What a gift! Yeah, a gift from the guys.
Yeah. It was as big a gift as the gift of Tom Liner in the air in Brisbane.
But it's chasing lost causes, Charlie. And Tom Curry has been doing that all series. He's got 7 dominant tackles. He is absolutely mullering people.
Yeah, he is. I saw a clip from the first test of Nick Champion de Crespigny taking sort of a neutral carry inside of zone 22 so he could just set up the ruck for Australia to kick out on the full. And Curry sees him from about 5 defenders out and goes, right, if you're going to do that, you're going to get absolutely whacked. And it's just violence. And so that was what was really interesting. And we'll talk about this, I'm sure, as well. But that was his last action of the game. So he was spent. And, he's turning into one of those guys who takes receipts about, but I'm not sure whether he seeks it or whether he's told about it, about any sort of conjecture that he might not be in form or he might not be the starting line 7 or whatever, because apparently he was a tiny bit shirty in the mix zone after the first test. But I was at the Premiership semi-final between Sale and Leicester, and he was slightly quieter than you might come to expect from Tom Curry, but he limped off he dragged himself off the pitch. He looked in bad shape. So for him and Sale, to their credit, always said, look, when he gets to the lines, he needs a wrist operation when he gets back. He's battered, but they will look after him. And how they've done that is by, I think he played 80 against Argentina. I think he played 80 against the Reds, and then he's gone 50 against the Brumbies, 50 for the first 2 tests. And I think that's helped. Well, it's helped win the Lions series. He obviously went off when they were down, but that moment was just humongous.
He's not played too much. I'm quickly trying to bring up my record. He's not played too much of the midweek games, has he? It's sort of been Ben Earl's come in, or it's been Van der Fleer or Jack Morgan or whoever.
He had. So when I was trying to sort of figure out who would start in the back row, him, Conan, and Morgan had all 80 together of the Reds game. I think I'm right in thinking. Ben Earl came on at 12 just for a little kind of curveball, and then he had 50 of that Brumbies game where it looked like that was going to be the test sort of alignment, and you thought, he's not been he gave away a penalty, didn't he, on Saturday? He's not given away too many penalties. He's been right on the edge. A couple of sort of maybe over anxious handling errors, but just when it's come to the tests and when it's been about collision dominance, notwithstanding Australia getting on top, obviously in that first half hour, he's just comes to the fore in really big moments.
It's always interested me about Andy Farrell. I think he's a very good selector, and I think Joe Schmidt's a really good teacher. And so if you give some lads 2 years with Joe, he's going to get better and better. But just picking out of the blue for this game, test 1, Andy gets him. Test 2, he fixes the bench, gets him again. Yeah. And he's just good at knowing that Tom Curry belongs in this team over his Wicklow disciple, Josh Van der Fleer. Yeah. He must love World Player of the Year under him. And just other questions like that, like even going with Ollie Chesham over James Ryan, who is probably like a son-in-law to him. So I think he's an interesting cat, Andy Farrell. He's unsentimental.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point. I've just looked it up, Charlie. He started at blindside against Argentina in Dublin, started blindside against Queensland, then was in the 7 for the Brumbies, and then started the 2 tests. So he's not actually worn a reserve number all tour. So he's been well managed. It's a really good point that you make.
Brett, I want to jump in on tie-in. So what Charlie's talking about is the comeback, and you write about this, and you say, how much different the conversation.
Can I just say, it is very weird to have your own writing read back to you,
isn't it?
It is.
It's so great.
It really is.
It's like forensic. Yeah. You talk about going into the sheds and you're up 23-5. How about you go into the sheds and you're 23-10? What are the conversations and messages like if you go in 23-17? And it's brilliant because you say, you close all that, you think you're going somewhere else, you go, the defense remains too passive and confused. And I go, yes. All Wallabies fans at that point are going, amen, brother. So talk to us about that. You write that the Lions were able to launch wave after wave really quickly, get from here to there, side to side. Jefferson Gibson Park doing a 2-sided attack. Comes here, comes there, and somehow there's an overlap with Conan and Curry against Lina and Jorgensen.
Yeah, well, it starts from that Tom Lina drop from the kick that you mentioned there before, Charlie. So he's dropped that just inside the 10-meter line, I think. So there's a scrum less than 40 meters out. They played wide to Freeman, who's able to get them all the way up to 5 meters out. So he managed to get McDermott, and I can't think who else it was, but he just maintained his feet and made 5 meters at least post contact, and so it was the 5 meter line before he was brought down. They played to the middle for maybe 1 ruck, maybe 2. Gibson Park picks up, looks left, fires right, and he sees on his right it's Conan and Curry. They're marked 1-on-1. But Jorgensen and I can't think of the other player who I did name.
Lina.
Lina, yes. Yeah, they both bid in, which leaves Curry on the outside. Jake Gordon still running.
And Jakey has to do the corner flag. Right. Never going to work. Yeah,
exactly right. So I just made the point that and then the follow up try as well. The Hugh Jones try as well. There's there's a really big carry in the middle of it. And again, Gibson Park sort of they play to the left, and then he comes off. And I think it's actually Keenan that throws Hugh Jones the pass, and it's just perfectly placed, isolates Jorgensen, McDermott, the two wingers standing in front of the right hand upright, basically, and he just blasts through their inside shoulders. The point being that they were able to get from, a safe distance out to pressing the line way too easily in that, and that's all in the space of about 5 or 6 minutes, I think it was.
All tour long, Charlie, that they've been doing really quick scores. They are efficient in the red zone.
Yeah, Gibson Parks, that's his superpower, isn't it? Just darting sort of back and forth and zigzagging, actually. And it's been quite interesting to see Alex Mitchell sort of take it up, and he's pretty good at that for Saints as well. I had this thought while seeing the kind of the winning try again today, that Hugo Keenan's like that guy, and we all know one who is fitter than everybody else in pre-season, and when you play touch, he's just mugging everybody continuously and scoring those tries in those games where you score a try and then you attack the other way, and he will do it 6 times or set up 2 or 3. And it reminded me, and that's clearly a big part of that is his sevens background, and to take on that 2-on-2 at the end and beat Ikitau on the outside, really good. But you're right to highlight that, because it's sort of, the Wallabies look pretty numbered up as well for that Hugh Jones try, and he just plays the ball in front of.
Yeah, it was who was doing the marking though. That
I think you're exactly right, Brett. I think he looked at them and he knew who they were, and he said, "I can take you in."
Yeah, absolutely. I've just got to put the pass in the right spot. Jones took it, just crashed in.
Sneaky big. He's a bigger guy than you think sometimes when you see him up against people.
Yeah.
He has a way of breaking tackles.
Yeah.
But Brett, what you wrote about that was way too passive, ill-disciplined, caught a long way out of position. And when I thought about that, I thought like of the beauty of Sue Ali doing these things, and you look at Max Jorgensen, he's a really alive one, but they got no D. It reminds me of that story in the NBA, the Dallas Mavericks. Like, the journalist said, why is everyone calling Nowitzki Irk? And they said, because he got no D. So it's a two-sided game, man. I mean, there were moments where when Kinghorn came on with Farrell, running the 10, and Finn Russell doing the sort of a pullback 13-ish thing, where Kinghorn would see Ali, and it's like he was smiling, Charlie. I mean, it's like, why are you on your heels? Come get me.
How much of that is the again, this is probably pretty fluffy, but the energy and what the game sort of falls into, and if it feels tit for tat, is there less when you've expended a lot of emotional energy on attack, which they had and they've done really well, and then you just almost feel in a washing machine of, oh God, we're conceding multiple tries. I think the last quarter and that break you're talking about with Kinghorn going on the outside, I just found it fascinating that they brought on Owen Farrell and had him defending 13. Just like talk about just, and I wrote about this with another piece I've written this week, just about that substitution and just how kind of on record otherwise it's going. I just wouldn't have had the bottle to call up Owen Farrell, regardless of being his dad. But to sort of put yourself in that position where you are going to face accusations of nepotism and call up your son who is out of form, not only to do that, to give him the captaincy for one game, and then to chuck him on with 20 minutes to go, and then to chuck him on at 13 and go, you don't need a 13. We'll give you Bundy Aki and Finn Russell, and that will be how we manipulate width, because you'll have Blair Kinghorn sort of sweeping around. I just thought it was wild, but just so fascinating.
It was interesting to watch that change from up high, Charlie, because Farrell's come on and Hugh Jones came off, and everyone's sitting there going, what's the adjustment here? Like, who's doing what? Is Aki going to 13? What's
Bundy
happened?
cramping too?
And there were times in the next 5 minutes where it was sort of like the three of them just sort of went, I don't know, we'll just play wherever. And because there were times where Farrell was taking it at 10. There were times where Finn Russell was taking it as second receiver. There was times where Aki was taking it at first receiver. They just sort of seemed to stand where they were standing, and they played from there. And so you're right. There were times where Farrell sort of looked up and he went, oh no, I'm all right. I'm defending here at 13. And for 20 minutes, it just kind of worked. It was really interesting.
I think they moved him back to 12 and on defence after that first line out. So he missed a couple of tackles. I think if Australia had managed to keep the ball, but you're almost there going, right, if you want to hold on to the ball with this skinny lead that you've got, okay, but if you miss one breakdown, we get over the top of the ball, and we're going to kick the 3 and be ahead again. It was fascinating. And then you bring it back to your point, Harry, about like the Schmidt versus Andy Farrell, master or mate versus apprentice, or however it is. Farrell's just a bit vibier, isn't he? It's almost like an art and science thing, and he just and a sort of, but geez, like. I hope my sort of the premise of what I wanted to write, like, look, this is what he did. And I still think that the Lions could have won with Hugh Jones on the pitch. And I still think that actually, if the Lions hadn't got over the line, Andy Farrell would have faced quite a lot of questions about why did you bring? Why the hell did you play your son at 13 when I think he played on his debut at 13 and hasn't played since. But it just got over, and that's kind of how history will remember it, I think.
I like that piece, Charlie. So the piece he's talking about, literally, Brett, he follows Owen Farrell all over the pitch for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's off the ball and on the ball. And it's really interesting, Charlie, how you point out that Farrell will go chase a kick. He cannot cut off right, keeps running, follows Jorgensen's grummer, burrows in with Byrne, and helps Jamison recycle possession. I mean, if you are forward and you see Owen Farrell with 100-ish caps doing that, then you say he pulls back to 10, then he's at 12, then he's at 13. He fixes people, though, Charlie, because even though, yes, Hugh Jones maybe, but having Owen on the field, everyone's looking at him. I feel like they had to.
Yes,
someone had to go,
see that.
What's he doing? Where is he going?
What's going to happen?
You said he shadowed Russell sometimes, and so then now they're running. You got Finn and Owen running at you. What's who's going to go where?
Yeah. I mean, it's so I guess like unsatisfying to hear about the intangibles sometimes, and to hear about players talk about, oh yeah, he drives standard in his training, and you're like, yeah, cool, like great. I'll never be able to see that. I'll never be able to understand that. But
how low are your standards that you need a guy from France to come in?
You've got Johnny Sexton shouting at you, you've got Andy Farrell shouting at you. You need another angry guy. Like, come on, I'm not having that.
Exactly.
But to have him on the pitch, I think, and actually, I thought that there are a lot of people sort of impose a lot of criticisms on Owen Farrell, I think, just because they don't like him, and that's each to their own. But then one of those things I've heard is that, oh yeah, he's being overbearing for the group. I actually thought that he was absolutely a lieutenant as opposed to a general, and Maro Itoje was the leader, and more crucially, perhaps, Finn Russell was the quarterback. That was probably the most important thing, and Farrell was so palpably a second playmaker, sorting out the structure and being there as the first receiver, either the first receiver to get Finn Russell deeper, so he could wang the ball wider, or being that second receiver to move the ball wider himself. I just really like, regardless of whether it's Owen Farrell or not, I think I really like those understated performances. And James Ryan gave one of them from the bench as well, in a different way.
He looked happy too, to me, Owen Farrell, maybe happier than I've ever seen him. I'm not just talking about post-win, but he just looked happy throughout. And you point out something that I had to go back and really watch it. I wanted to see it. You said 2 phases from the end, Finn Russell and Farrell facilitating. Finn directs the forwards close to the ruck. Farrell looks over to the near side and gestures to Conan to stay wide. That's auspicious because we know what happens later, because he keeps Keenan on one-on-one. Farrell realizes Byrne, the Lions' next carrier, might get isolated. He nails Ikitau. So Owen Farrell is putting Conan where he needs to be, and he's the one who cleans out Lenny.
And he ran 7 or 8 meters for that clean out.
Yeah.
He's looking on his outside, and he looks up and he goes, shit. Like he could, in that moment, he could see it was Ikitau arriving. There was, I presume it was probably Tizana or someone like that. There was someone else arriving into the tackle area. In that instant, he could see exactly what was going to play down, and he just went straight through and took Ikitau out.
Yeah, and unlike you, I was thinking, Hugh Jones could do this, could do that. I thought, no, Hugh Jones wouldn't do that. That's where Owen was a northerner.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get my hands dirty. I'm not too handsome to put my face in a wood chipper.
Charlie, you mentioned back before Finn Russell stole 5 meters with a kick.
Yeah,
and it's a crucial little moment, and it's a little byproduct of modern rugby, and every kicker does it. I reckon I first noticed Reece Hodge probably 10 years ago first doing it, but every line kicker does it. He stands right next to the referee and goes, "There's the mark. Yep, there's the mark. Okay, we all agree there's the mark. Cool." And he stands on the mark, and then he takes his full run up and kicks. And so he's actually kicking from 4 or 5 meters ahead of the mark, but he found touch 8 meters out. So he's turned that for a penalty from a line out that might have been 10 or 15 meters out to 8 meters out, and that changes the call. It changes the call of the line out, changes what they can do off it, and they end up scoring.
The percentages get ridiculous when you go.
Absolutely. And so there was a few people going, "Oh, well, Russell's just outright cheating here." I will challenge you to find me a line kicker who takes the mark and then takes their run up backwards.
Yeah,
no one does it. No one does it anymore.
I went back to watch a couple of Tom Liners ones, and he was starting at the mark, but he was taking sort of 2 or 3 meters, whereas Finn Russell was taking, I reckon a couple of them would have been 6, which is mental. But it is like an older kid at school when there's a sort of newish teacher or whatever, and the younger kid is sort of doing what the newish teacher, no, absolutely, sir, or whatever, and the older kid's like, this guy's not going to tell me off. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want, and just the amount of times that he did it, until it's almost like ask for forgiveness, not for permission. That's exactly what Russell.
Oh, sorry. Did I run over the mark? Sorry. I've not meant to do that. Sorry. I've put the mark in the wrong spot. Sorry.
So I've seen the refs tell you to stop and go back, but what is it, the penalty or the sanction when they only realize it after you've kicked?
I think pretty much all you can do is make them take the kick again.
That's why you should do it every time, because if the worst that happens is I reload, it's fine.
Is it a short arm potentially?
They always tell you to go back to take taps. You're always taking the tap from the wrong place.
The redo.
Yes.
So I don't know whether it's different. I don't know, but it's a ballsy call,
and you've won the penalty. It would be a harsh reversal.
Absolutely.
I bet it's malpractice not to do it, is what I'm saying.
Reece Hodge was very deliberate when he did it, Charlie. He would very deliberately make the mark. He'd like really jam his foot in. He'd take one step back, and because he played so much down in Melbourne, and he did do a lot of kicking training with AFL teams, so he had a very straight down the line AFL drop punt type kick. So he'd take his one big step back, and then his kicking run up was 5 steps maybe. So you take a one very deliberate step back, make sure the referee sees that, and then go forward from there. He was every time.
I'll tell you one guy who went not even the mark, he went backward. Franz Steyn. He literally always thought he was going to go too far.
Well, that's probably true. Yeah.
He's like, let me give myself a little.
I need to go back here so that I can find touch 5 meters out and not kick it in goal. Yeah. Oh, what a problem to have too big a boot.
Yeah.
One last thing on Melbourne, because we do need to start thinking about Sydney this week. 90,000 people for a Lions game in Melbourne. For all the talk about particularly the state of rugby in Victoria now, the noise in the crowd when they scored the tries, the noise, as they had their celebrations when the moment was up, and I mentioned the post-mortem, it was up there with Boxing Day Ashes test noise. It was just
brilliant,
unbelievable. It was just I don't think I've ever experienced a rugby atmosphere like it. And so, certainly Melbourne's not going to drop off the rugby calendar. That's certainly true. It's going to be for the big events.
There was one point when you discussed
just done so well,
Melbourne, though, and I agree that was a brilliant showing, and we should not forget it. And I hate the way we're squabbling around the edges and the magnificence of the occasion. But Charlie, you talked about the shoe. I think it was the left boot or the right boot, one of the boots.
Oh goodness, yeah.
And it brings up the question. So I shoot it over to his club coach, and I just said, make sure Will has that shoe forever, because remember, it was with that mismatched shoe on that he blew through Harry Wilson and Nick Frost and made about 20 meters, which I think ended up winning the game.
Yeah, with one of those funky Adidas sort of kaleidoscope boots, and
You talked about amateur hour. It was hilarious.
Hang on. So what are we talking about? Odd shoe. What are you talking about?
Will Stewart lost the shoe, or maybe the whole bottom went out. So he runs over to the sideline and gets one shoe from his teammate. And, yeah,
from Tyke Furlong.
Tyke Furlong offers his apparently the same size ish, puts it on, and then Will Stewart has his best carry of his life.
I did not see this. There you go.
I think things you don't know. It helped solidify, the scrum as well. It was. We were saying it was so village that it was one, because you can sort of say if you're batting, and I don't know, one of your pads, like, I don't know, strap breaks or whatever, you're changing both, because otherwise you look like a plum. But if you change one and keep odd pads on, you look like, I mean, just what do you look like? Yeah. But Will Stewart just doesn't seem the sort of guy to, he's pretty free and easy guy.
He was unrushed.
Get on with it.
Brady, he went over there. It was the funniest moment.
I remember the run.
Neither one of them seemed rushed. They kind of had a moment together. Like, hey, which one left? Okay, we'll take it. It's like getting a jumper cable for your car or something. Like, hey,
left or right.
There's the test match out there.
No, it's probably the one that I need. Yeah, there you go. I did not know. So
I told you,
I remember the run.
He's got to locate that boot, and that boot must always be on his foot when he's carrying.
There you go. Sydney then, Test Week 3, as the Lions have dubbed it. It's going to be really interesting, and I've only got one question here, and it's simply, what should we expect? Like, what are we going to get?
Charlie has coined a word. Come out with
it. Means nothing and everything.
And what's that one word together?
The Neverything test. Where
Writers Colloquium. That's what you get on a colloquium.
Everything.
Yeah,
there you go.
Everything.
That would be getting read back to me by that editor for sure.
Everything. But can I just preface that Neverything is going to be published in this episode?
That's all. I'm only talking about this as Neverything because I think I'm more on the nothing kind of part. I'm struggling to get excited about it, except to see if there's proper niggle and if these teams really do hate each other.
Well, I've gone round in my head about it. I thought that because my starting point was right. Andy Farrell has framed this mission statement as 3-0 throughout.
Sure.
And I thought actually that it reminded me a bit of 2013. I think the 2013 players have spoken about, we had to that blowout in the third test happened because we just couldn't replicate the emotional high that we dug deep into our souls to get for the second test. And then that's what happened. The Lions ran away with it in 2013. But speaking to a few of the, well, not speaking, I'm here, but hearing a few of the Wallabies speak after the game on Saturday, I thought there was that desperation clearly is remaining because they just desperately don't want to be whitewashed. But there was also quite a measured tone to it. And I wonder whether we, under Christy Doran's written that Rob Valentini's out, which is a real shame, but which will clearly damage the Aussies. But I just feel like mentally they will be at a place to put it up to the Lions, and then you've got to factor in hangovers and actually that just I always think rugby is often about who's got the bigger reason to quit, and actually the Lions do, I think.
Sure.
Because they can say, oh yeah, we've wanted 3-0, but when it comes down to it, I think the fear of being humiliated from Australia will be more powerful unless Andy Farrell is, and we know he is, a very good orator, a very good framer of narrative. So he will have made this seem important, but it's whether it actually does.
And they feel unjustly treated as well. So I know Australians cannot see that, but they actually do, because they think it's sour grapes, tainting the win, putting an asterisk on it, and doing it cleverly and framing the issue in such a way that it's like safety and all these things. And they go, no, it's not. And now we're going to really properly humiliate you. The problem for Australia is running out of bodies, Brett. If what Christy Doran's saying on the Roar, and he's usually right on scoops and leaks, is it's Nick White driving the ship when Jake Gordon was one of the best. You have Alan Alatoa obviously out for a season injury.
Alan Alatoa has definitely been ruled out.
Scrum penalty entries all night long. And just Valentini really was a big difference. So it just makes you wonder about the greatest strength that the Lions have in the edge is depth. They just do.
Yeah. Oh, look, Valentini was in doubt from the moment he didn't come on in the second half in Melbourne. True. So, excuse me, Schmidt said that the plan for Valentini and Skelton was to get about 50 minutes out of them, but Valentini was evidently tightening up late in the first half.
Was it a hamstring? What did you hear?
I presume it's the calf that's been troubling him all year. So yeah, he evidently didn't have the full mobility by the end of the first half. You know, they probably tried to treat it during the break, and it just wasn't responding. So he came off. Alatoa had. It was initially described as an upper torso injury, but it's sort of now been revealed to be shoulder.
Oh, is it?
Well, pec but shoulder is what they've said now. I think he may have even had surgery already, or he's scheduled to go in this week. So he could be out for a period of time. May even miss the rugby championship if it was particularly serious. So yes, you're right. Depth is going to be the issue this week. Dan Sheehan, I saw popped up on one of the Stan Sports shows, Charlie, and he mentioned that the training schedule had to be amended once they landed in Sydney because it sounds like they kept going. I've sort of anecdotally heard that they sort of checked into wherever they're staying out near Coogee, I suppose, and headed straight for the Coogee Bay Hotel by the sounds of it, and kept going. So didn't train until Tuesday from all reports.
Yeah. I think Schmidt's point, and I heard this from, it might have been Michael Hooper. By the way, I think Tom Hooper's going to come on, Brett.
And he was good. The team. He was good in the first test too.
Michael Hooper talked about this and said, if we lose this one, so then you go down 0-3, then you go to South Africa, proper trouble there in the Republic. Then you have Argentina, that's no joke, that beat these Lions, and then you go do Bledisloe. He said basically you kind of wound up in your Eddie Jones take two. If you have a backward step and you've lost 6 or 7 in a row, we all know what happens. People go crazy.
And the succession plan is in place. So that will become a very awkward discussion topic very quickly. Look, it's a rough year. It's a rough schedule. Lions series straight into South Africa in South Africa. That's
South
rough
Africa.
for anyone. Yeah. Question I wondered about, Charlie, is we know that the Lions players are all their tour fee is pretty generous. Is there a clean sweep bonus on the line here?
Great question. I am not sure. I imagine that will be
there is.
That'll be coming out reasonably soon, and that helps, right? That helps the motivation factor. The depth point is bang on. I would add that there's going to be hunger. So guys like Josh van der Fleer, who mentioned previously, would be an ideal guy. And again, I don't want, please, I'm not writing Tom Curry off. He might be okay to do 50 minutes, but
nothing
that's
against Tom Curry on this podcast.
Even if he's got legs, his stumps, he's running on bloody stumps.
He's Lieutenant Dan. Someone like Josh van der Fleer, ideal guy to bring into the mix because he will be super motivated for a
Mac
load of
Hansen,
Mac Hansen, who has been sort of willy won't he. Gary Ringrose is out for sure, but I think it was reported that Tuipulotu and McCarthy are around as well, so there's scope for them to mix it up, and it will be everything you hear about Andy Farrell is that he will get the right cocktail of guys in there who absolutely deserve to do it, but will also sort of lift the feeling around the camp.
Are we going to see Henry Pollock, you think?
Oh, that'd be fun. I don't know.
I think you have to give him a run in Sydney.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so because I just enjoy. If they go 6-2, maybe.
Yeah, I was
They
going
go
to say,
6-2.
On the bench, I mean, yeah.
yeah. Is there room for Pollock and Van der Fleer?
Yeah, they've come off the bench together they sort of seem to be sort of this little.
They did against the
friends.
Brumbies.
They're friends too. Yeah.
They did against the
Yeah.
Brumbies. They definitely played together against the Brumbies. Yeah.
Josh Van der Fleer gave a really charming interview after the Leinster Saints game where bless him, must have been gutted because I think they did the media on the Monday as well. But he got asked about Henry Pollock and he just went, "Yeah, I mean he's good. He gets away with a lot, but he's fair play. He's really, really good." And I just thought that was a real magnanimous. That's 2 days after they've. You know how much stock they put in that Champions Cup. They must have been destroyed, and this 20-year-old has beaten them, and he was still magnanimous. And they've seemingly got on really well. So, yeah, I that would be fun, wouldn't it?
We need to see Henry Pollock in a test. We got to.
Yeah. I think that'd be fun.
How many, if any, of the additional players brought in last week in Melbourne have left the squad, or is he still running with a squad of 46 or 7?
So I think those 4. So Rory Sutherland, Ewan Ashman, Gregor Brown, and Darcy Graham have all gone. Yeah, I think.
Oh, Darcy Graham did his hamstring,
Yeah.
so he's. Yeah. I think you're right. He probably had gone. Okay, so those 4 guys have gone in and out.
Yeah, for that pesky sort of last midweek one, which is always a sort of hindrance. But I think they're sort of out. So they're back down to I think they will have a lot of originals there, plus guys they've brought in. And if you think about the guys drafted in since then, Jamie George is one of them, Owen Farrell is one of them. They've been around and they will be able to impress how rare, I guess, this is. It was unique, really, in certainly 1920, something like that. The last
clean sweep. Yeah. I made reference to it being potentially being the first clean sweep of the professional era because that was as much as my 30 seconds of research could quickly pick up from a scan. But yeah, I wondered whether they've done a 3-0 sweep. So yeah, there's going to be no shortage of motivation on the Lions side. There's not now. There's the idea of a professional era 3-0 clean sweep is huge. And if there is a bonus on the line, then that's cherry on top that keeps them going. So Harry, then how do the Wallabies stop that? How can the Wallabies win in Sydney?
They need to have moments of magic. I was struck by how one person can make a difference. And I think Charlie's exactly right about how there was an overall effect, but I think it still came from, like rugby always does, this idea of gain line. And watching Rob Valentini and then thinking about him not having Rob Valentini and who is that? Is it Tom Hooper? I'm not seeing it. I think the trouble is going to be again on the gain line. Look, watching Rob Valentini, and I wanted to talk about this, actually, I forgot to, the way he carries is unusual because I was thinking about it. His hair makes him look taller than he is. He's not massive compared to everyone else, but his carries are so violent. And I started watching his off arm because he always carries in one. He never goes 2 hands. And he carries in one, and the other one is balled up in a fist. And he uppercuts you, man. I mean, I'm into the contact. I'm not talking dirty. He just finishes you. He finishes his runs, and he's wiggly as hell. And also, he brings his arm up kind of like here, and so he's carrying with this off arm, and he just kind of gets that into your chest, and people bounce off him, and then he does it again and again and again. I think they're gonna miss that, and they're gonna realize. In the missing, they didn't have him, then they had him, and then they didn't have him. I think it's going to be palpable. Yeah. I would think an off day, hungover, maybe a couple of people on IVs, just not caring enough. I think the story is already written of this series. It all happened in Melbourne, and this is just the tail end. I mean, we can talk about how there's history, and I'm sure Andy will do his best, but I think it's a huge hangover for the Wallabies as well, quite frankly. It's just, they look like they had their souls ripped out of their chests.
In some ways, I'm almost thankful that test happened in Melbourne and not Brisbane, because at least it's only one more test to get up for and not 2. But that makes sense. Like that's why didn't the Wallabies smallest of small mercies? But yeah,
I'll always think about why didn't the Wallabies have that kind of venom and fire? They are clearly motivated by things beyond the pitch. They didn't feel. They felt slighted. They felt insulted. They felt you could feel it, and it really worked, which is kind of silly, but the young men. Yeah,
the couple of bodies they brought in for Melbourne are just different bodies.
Yeah,
like you mentioned for Brisbane, Harry, that it was a very white-looking pack.
bunch of white boys.
You add a couple of power athletes to it, and it's a different story. It's a different picture. And like, so you're right.
Not gonna take me down. It's no, literally exactly. No, never will you take me down on first up tackle. You've got to bring 2 of your friends. I love it.
So if Valentini is out, and it looks like he probably is, then how you can't replicate it. So how do you best plug the hole, or how much of the hole can you plug? Is probably the question.
It's back to your meditations about defense, passive. Yeah. Even in the best game in Melbourne, Wallabies look vulnerable. I mean, Tyburn is tight walking down the touch line. He looks to me like an Elvis impersonator. He's literally. I want him to go. Thank you very much when he scores. He looks like Elvis. The more I look at him now, I think he is Elvis. But there's no right to score there, Charlie. How does he score there? How does he score against those guys? That's ridiculous.
Scores there a lot, though.
He's one of. You talk about sort of body management with Valentini in contact burn. There's just a genius at that. But on both sides of the ball, he maybe doesn't necessarily get as much credit for his attacking stuff as his jackling, where he's a genius. The jackal in the first seconds of the first test, he has to wait for, I think it's Furlong, to roll back over after Suli's carry, and he is he times it perfectly, because if he's any earlier, the Lions concede the penalty for not rolling, and if he's any later, he gets blown off, and he's just so smart at that. And he's another one like Curry, who he's had a long season for Munster, looks a bit sluggish in these warm-up games.
And then he finds a new level.
He has even it felt like he found another level in the last quarter, or the last half hour on Saturday. And you're just going, that's what these experience, but it's also something else. It's something.
So I think are they all
bathing? Yeah. Are they all bathing in, I don't know, Red Bull or something? Like how are they keeping their energy levels up?
They've got Aled Walters, who's smart, who's all about peaking and I remember interviewing him. Interviewed him a long while ago now, actually, and he told a story about coaching Paul O'Connell, and after, I think it was a semi-final, he asked Paul O'Connell, or maybe the last game that they were going into the playoffs, and it was the last game of the regular season, and he asked Paul O'Connell how he felt, and Paul O'Connell went, "I'm absolutely spent." And it was after this game, and Aled Walters went, "Fuck, well, I've absolutely screwed this peaking and dropping." And he so it proved they fell apart in the semi-final or something along those lines. But he's learned from those experiences, and these guys who are battered, he's done it around World Cups. He's a different challenger line store, but
he's the guy that the Boks say. All the Springboks to a man say they've never been fitter in their life. And it has to do with the taper, like going up Everest, going to a certain point, then down, then up, then down. You don't just climb up Mount Everest. And so it's at various points in your Aled Waters training, you look terrible. Like you look like against Argentina. Like
while you're laying the foundation,
But then you're right at that final the score, Charlie. I've gone back and watched it. Forget the preceding breakdown. Just watch Hugo, and I go, "You still have a bounce in his step, you bastard! Like, how are you doing that?"
Absolutely.
From the loose to the
he's running downhill.
Yeah,
he's running downhill,
there's a little moment when he first gets the ball, and he looks up, and he sees Suli'i, and he goes, "No, I reckon I can beat you on the outside," and he just finds 2 more gears in 2 steps, and just goes. You might be, yes, it was Ikitau.
It was Ikitau, and Ikitau always gets into the picture on the camera, and he did again, but not the one he wants.
Not the one he wants. No.
And then we have to speak a bit about Conan, because over the course of the tour, he was kind of the quiet man, and here he is. I mean, Caelan Doris would be the captain.
He's been resourceful though. He's been so good,
very good on that final play. He's just hanging out there. Max doesn't know what to do. I think Max had to do something, by the way, not that. Just like don't do nothing.
The irony being that he'd been biting in all night, and this was one occasion where he needed to, and he didn't.
I think he had to just go hit something. It looks too painful in the end, where you're just basically going, have a seat. I'm the usher.
Yeah. Charlie, this has been a great chat as always. It's been good to go through Melbourne in depth. It's been good to try and sink our teeth into Sydney. I think there's still a fair bit to talk about this week between now and kickoff. This has been good. It's been weird to have our words read back to us. I don't know.
Colloquium.
Yeah, the colloquium. Yeah. Anyway,
less painful than when when the editor took my soul from me in front of a whole newsroom.
Did he write it on the board or something? Let's examine.
Oh, I can remember what he said, and I can't even air it. It was that. It makes me want to jump out a window.
Yeah. Excellent. Good on you, mate. Thanks so much for joining us again.
Anytime. Thank you.
Cheers.
This is the 8-9 combo with Brett McKay and Harry Jones. Charlie Morgan, mate, great on the 8-9 as always. That was a good chat. There is so many dot points and questions and things like that I thought we would get into that we got nowhere near, which is, as we've long said, always a good sign.
On one of my regular bicycle routes, it's out on the countryside. There's a gathering of people on Saturday mornings, and I said, "What are you guys doing?" And they're bird watchers, and that sounded ridiculous. And so I just kind of I'd never talked to them. They seemed kind of geeky. And then I don't know, about 6 months later, I go, "What are you doing, really?" They tell me these things, and I started getting into it. And then there's a couple of they're odd people, but I really liked it, and they explain what they're looking for. Charlie can see things in rugby matches sometimes that I go, I am a good observer of rugby, and I did not see that. And so I love having him on, reading his articles, because, even that thing about Owen Farrell, and it's a great article, everyone should read it.
Yeah.
He digs in, and he started to realize why everyone says Owen Farrell's so great. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a great little focus. And as I say, that clean out on Burn.
That's money, man.
It's just like that's one of the little that's one of those 1%ers. And not too many other players, you're right, would do that. And it's the distance he had to run to get there. It's
seeing them quickly. I mean, he's not the quickest guy in the world, but he sees things quicker. And I think when you had Farrell and Owen on there, and that must have been devastating and sickening to watch.
Yeah.
But they just seemed to be able to find wherever they needed to go next.
Yeah, exactly right.
And so anyway, I did want to, commend you for coming on and talking about this right afterwards. It had to be one of the worst moments of rugby to actually get through it. But I've heard so many people
say we've had a bit of practice at it.
But I've heard so many people have written saying they really they appreciated that. I think that you actually got up there, they felt it, they were like, "Ooh, we could feel it oozing out of him." That's sadness.
Yeah. It was real. There's no question about that. Check out our socials. Check out Charlie's socials as well. He's on Twitter and Blue Sky as well. And you'll find numerous different articles that we've been referring to and that Harry has read back to us, which has been kind of weird. It's been great. It's been great. We'll be back with the third Lions Test post-mortem recording right after full time between Australia and the Lions at the Core Stadium in Sydney on Saturday night. I'm looking forward to getting up to Sydney. The weather's not great. The weather was not supposed to be great in Melbourne. The weather in Sydney is going to be terrible from about Friday onwards, to the point where I theoretically have a golf date Friday morning. I don't think I'm taking my golf clubs to Sydney.
I just hope
that's how wet it's going to be.
I hope there's a proper fight with no one properly injured. Don't worry, guys. But I want to see us fight. I want to see
fight. Something. Make sure you subscribe then so that you don't miss the next edition of the 8-9 Tap and Go, properly exclusive to the 8-9 YouTube. Probably I think we'll do something once the teams come out. Once I get up into Sydney, so Thursday night, Friday morning. So make sure you're following us everywhere so you don't miss it. It's short, it's sharp, it's mostly unscripted. It kind of works.
Very unscripted.
It's very unscripted. Yeah. We have no games of the week, mate. We have no games of the week for the next few weeks, in fact. So, in fact, once this test is done, there's basically no rugby for a couple of weeks. So we will have to
Rugby
sort of
Championship
rejig a little bit of what we're going to do. Is there anything else to add at this point?
Thanks to Charlie T with Charlie, the writer, the Rugby Writers Colloquium. First edition has been convened and it is now dismissed.
It has been run and won. That then is another great episode of the 8-9 Combo Rugby Podcast behind us. Our sincere thanks to Charlie Morgan for joining us. Once again, we love having him on. Tell us what you think by following Harry and I on the socials in our usual places. Find the 8-9 Combo on the socials in all those same places and have your say on the 8-9 YouTube channel as well. And you can leave a comment on Spotify, which we've been loving to see. We love to hear from you either way. So let us know what you think. We love shares, we love ratings, we love reviews as well. This is the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed in a rugby podcast. Sean Maloney is ready in the closer. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones, and we will be back in your ears very soon.
Come play with us.
Here goes Jones with another bruising run. He links up with McKay, who pops back to Jones. They can't. They won't. They will. What a try. The Dream Team Combo go in again.